Well, coming up on today's show, a brand new, longer range Bmw i3 is on the cards, the Nissan LEAF is discounted, and Tesla's virtual power plants passes its initial testing. Well, good morning, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello and welcome to the Thursday, the 19th of July edition of EV News Daily. It's Martyn Lee here with the news you need to know about electric cars and the move towards sustainable transport. We'll kick off with some news in brief again today, and VW's North American CEO Hinrich Woebcken told Autocar that it's future EVs, so we're thinking things like the ID Crozz and the ID Buzz, would need to be built in North America rather than be imported. The new Nissan LEAF is the best-selling electric car in Europe in the first half of this year, selling 18,000 cars. That's now 37,000 in total for the new model in Europe since last October. And Volkswagen Motorsport, fresh from setting records for the ID Pikes Peak racer, has now urged World Rally Championship to find an alternative energy solution for the series, including electric drivetrains go rallying from 2020. Well, let's get into the news then, and congratulations, eHawk Tesloop, the shuttle service in California and Nevada. eHawk was their very first one, and that's the one we're celebrating today because 400,000 miles just ticked over on the clock. Well, eHawk has gone under three different major services in that 400,000 miles with Tesloop, says Stephen at Digital Trends. The car's front drive unit, you see this is the all-wheel drive D model, the P90D, the front electric motor was replaced at 36,000 miles. The car's 90 kilowatt-hour battery was replaced twice, in August of 2016 after doing just under 200,000 miles, and in January earlier this year at 324,000 miles. But the battery packs weren't replaced because they were degrading, according to Tesloop. The first replacement would not have been necessary if a firmware update had been available earlier, the company said. The car's range estimator would decrease by 10 miles, even without any loss of charge, something Tesla attributed to an issue with software that calculates range. Now, the second pack was replaced when the car ended up going into Tesla for an unrelated issue, Tesloop said. And in case you're wondering, yes, Tesla did do all of that work for free. With an 8-year warranty, and at the current mileage, 4 years, 400,000 miles, just over, the way that the mileage rates are increasing, it'll be a 1,000,000-mile Model S after 8 years. Link to that Digital Trends article in the show notes. Well, the BMW i3 and the new i3S will soon get a bump in range, according to the experts in the know over at the BMW blog. An i3 120 amp-hour model is launching later this year. And of course, BMW, just about the only ones that I can think of that don't advertise their battery energy capacity in kilowatt hours, but amp hours. It seems bigger. Early 2019 in some markets, but the major markets will get it sometime later this year, bringing a bigger battery capacity and therefore longer range. Well, intensive preparations are underway in the background for the debut of the new long-range BMW i3, which promises a standard range according to NEDC testing that is old and about to be completely got rid of very soon by the WLTP new range standard, at least here in Europe, of 350 Ks, that's 217 miles. NEDC is wildly optimistic and, frankly, somewhat useless. But you could say 150, maybe 150 miles, real-world miles on the BMW i3. The i3S, of course, using more power. Maybe 180 if you drive it really carefully in Eco Pro Plus mode. A link to that BMW blog in the show notes, by the way. Well, the Volvo Xc60 is one of my favourite looking cars. Let me backtrack. Any current Volvo is one of my favourite looking cars. They're just beautiful. Of course, at the top of the pile is the Polestar 1, not technically a Volvo, but a spin-off of Volvo. Now, Anthony Alanitz from Motor1.com USA says that the Volvo trademark has been discovered for the new XC60. See, Volvo have trademarked XC60 B4 all-wheel drive and XC60 B5 all-wheel drive. Now, deciphering the trademark names is easy. The B4 and the B5 are very likely to denote the XC60's powertrain. You see, Volvo signifies petrol powertrains with T, like the T5, the T6, the T8 for the plug-in hybrid. Diesel engines are the Ds, D4, D5, D6. And if Volvo are now introducing pure BEVs, pure battery electric vehicles for their cars, well, it would make sense for them to be Bs. So a new trademark for the B4 and the B5, the Xc60, is the new designation. I think you could probably put good money on that. If Volvo's pushing to sell electric vehicles, B for battery makes a lot of sense with their consumers as well. You go into the dealership and what's that? That's the T for the turbo, and what's that? That's the B for the battery. It's good thinking. It makes some common sense. Well, moving on to Germany, and imagine getting a free $5,000 subsidy off your brand new Tesla. Oh, it's all shiny and it smells lovely inside. It's on your driveway. You've been driving it around. Your mates have been dead impressed. And then you get a letter through the door from the government saying, oh, give us the grant back, because that's exactly what's happened to Tesla owners in Germany. Germany's Federal Office for Economic Affairs and Export Control released a statement on Tuesday earlier this week. 800 Tesla Model S owners who purchased their vehicles before the beginning of March must pay back €4,000. It's about $4,500, just over $4,500. It's the subsidy, as reported by Andrew Kroc for CNET's Roadshow. Now, the issue comes down to whether a base Model S can be bought for €60,000 or not. You see, they tried to exclude the Model S from, I don't know if they were specifically excluding it. What the reason the German government would give you is that they were excluding the high-end EVs because people with lots of money don't need any help. Good logic so far. However, the 60,000 threshold happened to be just around the price of a Model S with all the bundles in. So Tesla unbundled it, and you can now buy a base Model S for less than €60,000. And if you want to spec it up, you can, but the base model's for sale for less than 60,000. The subsidy applies. However, at that point, Germany decided you could get the subsidy on the Model S, and now they've decided you can't. It doesn't help, though. I'm not saying any of this is political. It doesn't help that grant, that free money, is also paid for by the German car makers. Oopsie. I bet that didn't go down well when the government went, we've actually got to give it to Tesla. Well, Tesla said this in a statement: the arbitrary decision to temporarily remove Tesla from the list of vehicles eligible for the environmental bonus, the Umweltbonus, was unjustified, they say, contrary to the stated goals of the program and unfair to our customers. That's according to a Tesla spokesman in an emailed statement. We are appealing the German government's decision to take this action against our pre-March customers. To make sure our customers are not harmed by the decision, we'll cover the cost of the bonus until the issue is resolved. End statement. I'm just pointing out the facts. A lot of people who don't quite get the story yet, they don't quite buy into it. So far on the podcast today, we've covered a story about a Tesla that needed some work done and was done completely for free, no quibble, under the warranty. And here we have the government in Germany literally moving the goalposts. And until it's sorted out, Tesla saying to their customers, don't worry, we'll pay the money back for you and leave it to us. We'll dig it to the courts and we'll sort it out. Not you sort yourself out. Just interesting, that's all. Well, moving on to South Korea/China. And South Korea's LG Chem plans to invest $1.77 billion with a B, wow, US dollars to build its second electric car battery plant in China. And it's all to meet growing demand. A company spokesman told us yesterday. Reuters reports the investment will be made by 2023, in 5 years' time, to increase its total output capacity to 32 gigawatt hours per year. That's enough batteries for around 500,000 electric vehicles coming out of that one factory alone. Not the vehicles, but the batteries for them, an LG Chem spokesman said. LG will break ground on the new factory in a couple of months' time, this October. Production will begin in October 2019. A link to that Reuters article in the show notes. Well, here in the UK, a company called Pivot Power made somewhat of a splash earlier this year. They're a UK company building out a £1.6 billion network of 45 grid-connected batteries with the added bonus of charging stations for cars attached to them. There's big business at the moment all around the world for grid-connected batteries. You see, you can either build some more power stations, and some of those are very dirty if you're burning coal. Some of them are very expensive and controversial if you're building nuclear power stations. Batteries, even second-life batteries, make a lot of sense, especially tied with renewables as well. Utility Week say that Pivot Power has revealed more details today on its plans to build an EV charging super hub, love that name, with a 50 megawatt battery. Yowzers, that's a biggie, on the outskirts of Southampton, which if I look out of the window of the room I'm in right now, and I look along the coast, because we live by the beach, and if I look along the coast about 20 miles, I'd almost be able to see it. It's not far from here. The battery is going to have storage capacity of 50 megawatt hours and cost £25 million for the first one. Construction will begin next March, completed in 3 months, by July this time next year. The Super Hub, good name, will offer rapid charging for up to 100 cars at a time and be capable of supporting the fastest chargers currently available. Well, if you're a newcomer to the podcast, if you're someone who's listening to the podcast who is kind of curious about EVs, and apologies if you know all of this already, I'll just very briefly explain why battery storage connected to the grid is such an important part of the EV story. You see, as batteries get bigger and the charge rates of batteries get faster, you may have heard I'd be talking about 350 kilowatt chargers, you only need 3 or 4 cars turning up, and the suck, if you like, for want of a better word, you could use the word demand, but we'll stay with suck. The suck on the grid is large, so if you need to put in a nice big fat pipe into the national grid to cope for, say, 20 cars all charging at the same time, you need to build for maximum possible capacity. From the few articles I read about it, that is massively expensive. Or it's a bit like a bucket. You fill the bucket with water. That's your electricity. When electric cars turn up to it, they can all put their hole in the bucket and take what they need to. And the level might go down quite quickly, but then they leave, they're done, they're charged, they live, and then the grid tops the bucket back up with electricity at a more sensible speed, at a more sensible price for the connection. I think I've explained that kind of for beginners. That's why battery-connected storage is so crucial to the EV story over the next 5 to 8 years, maybe 3 to 5 years actually. You can save a whole load of money by using batteries, and you're going to see Tesla doing this more and more. The Tesla V3 supercharger will be announced before the end of the year. I predict, especially with the Semi and the Roadster, the new Roadster, loads more power packs being built just behind superchargers, and that is to form a buffer to the grid to save costs. Well, talking of virtual power plants, from the UK to the other side of the planet, to Australia, and Steve Hanley for Clean Technica is keeping up to date on the world's largest virtual power plant. That is 50,000 homes. 50,000 5 kilowatt rooftop solar systems, all connected to 13.5 kilowatt Tesla storage systems in Australia. So far, the installation of rooftop solar and storage batteries has been completed on 100 homes as the initial phase. The results are everything Tesla expected them to be. In addition to completing the remainder of the virtual power plant system, the Liberal government that came into power in March expected to announce a 100 million Aussie dollar grant to install battery storage systems in 40,000 more homes in SA, in South Australia. Other companies, particularly Sonnen, are going to be involved in the battery storage aspects of the systems for the additional homes. And finally yesterday on the podcast, we were talking about the brand new Nissan LEAF. It's now got a name, the E+. Still no word on the exact size of the battery. My personal prediction, 64 kilowatt hour, as they're using LG Chem packs, 60 kilowatt hour usable, and that'll be on sale before the end of this year. So, my next question, which I didn't say yesterday, honest Gov, I'm not making this up, was, I wonder when the discounts will start for the current LEAF. Hasn't even been on sale a year yet, and Nissan very competitive on price. Something that you're never going to walk into a Tesla service centre and say, I'll give you that. They'd laugh you out the door. I mean, they wouldn't. They'd be very pleasant about it, but they'd be like, nah, the price you pay online is the price you pay. We're not here to haggle. Whereas Nissan, much more of a value proposition, and I wonder when discounts are going to start. Yeah, today then. Wade Malone at Inside EVs has news to put a smile on the face of any prospective Nissan LEAF buyers. Nissan's now offering a $2,000 cashback, but if you finance, though, through Nissan Motors Acceptance Corporation, so long as you live in a state that has adopted a ZEV or ZEV mandate, that is, as is usually the case for electric vehicles from traditional automakers, the best offers are relegated to just a few states. Doesn't include leasing them, but if you go for finance to buy it, then you get your $2,000 off. The one thing I wasn't sure, I had to go reread the actual Nissan website, is if you walked in with cash to buy a brand new Nissan LEAF in those states, do you get the $2,000 off, or do you only get $2,000 if you're taking finance? Now, I think that finance is at 0% APR, but as someone who, I hate the hard sell on finance, and if you only get the $2,000 off if you go into debt, that's not great. But if you do get the $2,000 off if you just walk in with a bag full of cash, well, then that would be good as well. If you can help me out, by the way, in spreading the word of the podcast, I've not asked recently, and so I figured a cheeky ask. If you're someone you can share this with on Twitter, on Facebook, online, maybe on a forum, or somewhere that you visit, and you can just put a little link to the podcast, I would really appreciate that. It's been growing, doing great guns lately, but, you know, we always want more and all that kind of stuff. We want more people to find out about EVs. There's 184 previous episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher and YouTube to enjoy. And the blog at evnewsdaily.com. If you subscribe, you haven't got to think about it every single day. I know you're busy, so hit the subscribe thing, and then you get it first and free and automatically. If you can leave a little rate and review in return, that'd be amazing. And if you want to hang out on the socials, just search EV News Daily and you will find me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you tomorrow.